In recent days, Roman circles have been filled with an atmosphere not of grand, solemn declarations, but rather the more subtle and restless one of silent crises. It all began with a specific announcement. The priestly fraternity of St. Pius X would proceed with episcopal consecrations on July 1st. Not a hypothesis, not a rumor, a declared intention. And in the Vatican, as we know, consecrations without a papal mandate are never a technical detail. They're a red line. In the days leading up to February 12th, the Holy See had let slip an equally clear position. Any episcopal ordinations without a mandate would be considered a breach of communion, with grave consequences. No apocalyptic tone, but an unequivocal legal firmness. At the same time, the desire to avoid a new rift was emphasized, a dual tension, rigor and openness. It is in this context that the meeting on February 12th between the prefect of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, Cardinal Victor Fernandez, and the superior general of the fraternity, Father Davide Pagliarani, took place. A meeting authorized by Pope Leo XIV. And this fact is not insignificant. When a conversation takes place with the direct approval of the pontiff, it means the matter has reached the highest level of ecclesial responsibility. According to the statement released by the fraternity, the conversation, which took place in a cordial and frank atmosphere, lasted an hour and a half and was held face-to-face at the Cardinal's request. An hour and a half, not a formal greeting, not a quick exchange, a real direct, personal exchange. And the fact that it was the prefect who requested the meeting shows that Rome didn't want to wait for events. During the conversation, Don Pagliarani clarified the intention behind the announcement of the consecrations on July 1st. It appears that this is not a symbolic or provocative gesture, but a decision that the fraternity considers linked to its mission and continuity. The statement does not go into theological details, but confirms that the central theme was precisely this: the meaning and scope of the announcement. For his part, Cardinal Fernandez offered an alternative approach to the question, and this is where the real crux lies. In the official statement, quickly published by the Holy See, it speaks of a specifically theological path of dialogue, following a very precise methodology to highlight the minimum necessary for full communion with the Catholic Church. Not a political negotiation, not a pragmatic negotiation, but a theological, structured journey with defined criteria. The stated objective would be to allow the definition of a canonical status for the society. This is a weighty statement. It means that at least formally, Rome does not rule out a stable solution for the fraternity. Not marginalization, not mere de facto tolerance, but a recognized legal framework. However, this possible outcome is subject to a condition that is clearly defined. The possibility of pursuing this dialogue presupposes the suspension of the decision regarding the announced episcopal consecrations. This is the key phrase. It is the turning point. A definitive resignation is not being asked, at least not in the terms expressed. A suspension is being requested, but it's clear that on an ecclesial level, this suspension represents much more than a technical postponement. It demonstrates the desire to remain within a shared process under the authority of the Roman pontiff. Cardinal Fernandez also asked Father Pagliarani to present this proposal to the Council of the Fraternity and to grant it sufficient time to examine it. This detail is also significant. No immediate ultimatum was imposed. No immediate response was demanded. The need for internal discernment was recognized. Father Pagliarani, for his part, announced that he will respond in the coming days. He specified that he will write directly to Cardinal Fernandez and will also make his response known to the faithful. This is not a confidential decision, not a silent agreement, a public response, which will be communicated openly. It is a step that places a heavy burden of responsibility not only on the leadership, but also on the entire fraternity community. Not only that, the Superior General also requested an audience with Pope Leo XIV. This gesture deserves attention. Asking to be received by the pontiff means acknowledging that the issue is not merely technical or disciplinary, but touches the very heart of ecclesial communion. It also means bringing the discussion to a personal, direct level, beyond the mediation of officialdom. What does all this mean? It means we're at a real crossroads. On one side, the announcement of the July 1st consecrations, which in the preceding days had rekindled fears and tenseness. On the other hand, an offer of structured theological dialogue, with the prospect of a defined canonical status, but conditioned on the suspension of that announcement. This is not a marginal issue. Episcopal consecrations in the Catholic Church are not a private act. They are a gesture that directly impacts the visible unity of the Church and the relationship with the successor of Peter. This is why Rome speaks of grave consequences for ordinations without a mandate. This is not a rhetorical formula. It is a reference to the very structure of Catholic ecclesiology. At the same time, the fact that a specifically theological path is proposed indicates that the debate is not reduced to a disciplinary tug-of-war. It is acknowledged that there are doctrinal issues to be clarified, interpretations to be discussed, and levels of consensus to be specified. The statement speaks of a very precise methodology. This suggests that these will not be generic discussions, but rather a structured effort. The requested suspension is therefore a concrete sign of willingness to pursue this path. Without this gesture, the dialogue itself would fail. It is a preliminary condition, not a negotiable detail. And it is on this point that the fraternity's response will hinge. The fact that the answer is being announced in the next few days creates obvious anticipation. There's no talk of months. There's no talk of a long time frame. The decision is imminent, and it will be made public. This element of transparency increases the significance of the event. There can be no room for ambiguity. The debate is ongoing. The answer is awaited. And, as often happens in ecclesiastical history, a concrete gesture to suspend or not to suspend will speak louder than many words. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.